Hello, I hope you are doing well. I am doing great. Thanks for asking. Sometimes all you need is a table whose cells are all editable. So I made this demo during the day and I thought it deserves its own video. So here we are. Another day, another crude application. So all the cells of this table are editable and we are going to be using the iris dataset. The first four columns are all numeric, and then this final column for species, in R it's usually a factor. So on the UI, we represent it using a drop down. So you can either have setosa, versicolor, or virginica for a cell. Now, the changes we make to our table are going to be persistent. That means we have to use a database, and what better choice for this than SQLite? So for the backend, we'll use ambiorix, and of course, now for this kind of table, this is the perfect use case for htmx. And then of course, for the front end, I am a huge bootstrap fan, right? Okay, so this is what we are going to be building, and the thing is, as I said, when you make any change to like any cell, it's going to be persistent. So if we save, like if we have like 157, you see that it was saving, and then after saving, we have this last updated field, which is, updated. And also we can change this from something like versicolor. Let's have setosa. Again, it's saving, and after saving, we have this last updated field, it is touched or updated. Now the saving thing, obviously it's not that it's low. I've just simulated what you'd have in production because of latency. So in this case, I am just having a simple sys.sleep, and yeah, that is like the simulation of latency. Yeah, let's start building this. Okay, so I'll hop onto my terminal, then I'll cd into projects, then I'll make a directory here, and for this one, let's call it editables, right? Let's call it editables, cd into editables, and then of course, we are going to start a tmax session here. So tmax new session editables. And now inside of here, we don't really need a hello world for this one. So let's start on the backend, right? Let's start working on the backend right away. So I am going to do, so first of all, this is an empty directory, but we need several files. Obviously, we will need index.r, and then we are going to need now db.r. And actually, we'll need ui.r, right? So now we have three empty files. We have db, index, and ui.r. Let's start with the database. So let's do nvim db.r, and here we are. Working with databases in R, you're obviously going to need dbi. So I am going to import from dbi. So I'll say box use from dbi. I want you to get me, first of all, db connect, and then obviously db disconnect. After that, when making requests to the database, I'll need db execute and db get query, right? I think those are good for a start. I have this thing where I just have to arrange these things in kind of depending on their length. So yeah, okay. Those are the db functions that you're going to need, and since we are using SQLite, we'll need something from R SQLite, and that's going to be sqlite, which is the db driver, right? So let's define the connect function. So connect, this is going to be a function, doesn't take any arguments, and for the connection, we are going to use db connect, and we are going to pass it the driver. So in this case, the driver will be a call to SQLite, and then the db name is going to be editables.sqlite. So let me turn off these diagnostics, they are annoying. Now, once you have the connection, what I want to do is, first of all, in my db, I will check if the table called editables exists, or do I need to create it? So this is just going to be a simple if check and an early return, right? So we are going to have if db exists table, then we pass in that connection, and then the name of the table, we are just going to call it editables. So if that table exists, then I have no need to continue with the rest of the function. So I'm just going to return early, and I'll return that connection. But if the table doesn't exist, I'll have to create it, right? So we have a query for the table creation. So this query is going to be, I want you to create table editables, right? And this table, what will it have? It's going to have, let's start with the ID. Yeah. So the ID, it's going to be an integer. Yeah, let's just go with the IDs. Should I go with an integer or a UID? No, I'll just go with an integer in this case. So integer primary key, and just to be safe, I'll set not null. And then the second one after the ID, then the rest are just columns for iris, I guess. So I just fire up R and give me the names of iris. So the second one will have sepal length. So sepal length, this is going to be text, obviously not null. Then we will have, no, it's not text, it's supposed to be numeric. So in SQLite, I guess this is it number? Numeric columns SQLite. Numeric columns SQLite. For the data types, it's actually supposed to be real. Yeah, real works. So sepal length, this is going to be real, not null. Then we will have sepal width, same thing, real, not null. Then let's have petal length, again real, not null. Then let's have petal width, real, not null. Then finally we have the species. The species is going to be text, and we have to check, obviously, okay, text, not null, but we have to check that the species is either setosa, versicolor, or virginica. So we are going to have a check. So we say species, it's text, it's not null, and then I have a simple check. In this check, we just want to check whether species is in one of these. So we check whether species is in setosa, versicolor, or virginica, like that. And I think this is fine. So create table editables. This species, you're saying text, not null, and I want to check whether species is in that. I think this is this looks fine to me. Then we of course want to execute this query, so we are going to say db execute. The connection will be the created connection. Then the statement will be the query, and of course we don't need any parameters for this, it's just that, right? And then I want you to return the connection at the end of the day. So I don't think we imported this db_exists function, so we come here and add it to the list of imports. I think this is fine. Let's have connect to the editables database, and it's going to return the same value as dbi db connect, and of course we want this to be exported. Then after connection, we of course need disconnect. So disconnect, this is going to be a function which takes in a connection, and what it does is call db disconnect on that connection. So this is disconnect from a database, disconnect from a database connection, disconnect a database connection, disconnect the database connection. at param con, this is the database connection, and of course this is required. Then I want this to be exported as well, and that's about it. Okay, so we can try and see if those two functions are working. So we jump into R, and then we are going to say, I want you to import everything from the DB file. Get me everything that's exported, right? Yeah, from the DB file, get me everything that's exported. So now we have connect, and if we say the connection will be connect, so that ran without any errors. So if we do ls now in our DB, in our directory, you see that we have this file called editables.sqlite, and of course it did create it created the table editables, right? So now after that, wait, actually I just realized we are missing something here. After this query is run, we also need to append the iris dataset to our table, right? So we don't have to keep on creating records each and every time. So in fact, after the db execute, let's have db append table, and we pass in the connection, which is con, and then we will pass in the name of the table. The name in this case is editables, and after that let's have let's have the value. I'm guessing, how do we pass the value? Let's just check dbi append table. Actually it's just value, so the value in this case will simply be iris, but then I need to make some edits to iris. So this is just going, I'm just going to say data, then data here will be iris, and then since I am using box, I'll come here and say from datasets, I want you to get me iris. And now let's come back here to this data object. First of all, we need to change the names, right? So we are going to say the names of data. The names of data will be sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width. And finally we are going to have the species. And then just to be safe, I'll say data subset species will be as character data subset species. Yeah, now that looks more like it. So we come back, and I'm just going to remove this database since I want to recreate it, and then fire up R. I want you to go into the db file, get me every exported function, and then the connection will be connect. Okay, could not find function db append table. That's because I did not import it. So I come to the top, have db append table, and there we go. We try this again, ls remove editables, fire up R again, and we are saying get me everything from db that's exported, and then the connection will be connect. There we go. So now if I were to fire up SQLite, so SQLite 3 editables.sqlite, and I say select star from editables, and let's take the first 5, right? Okay, there we go. So that worked. Okay, so that's out of the way. So the connect and the disconnect functions are obviously working. So now how do we read a record, right? Let's say we want to read a single record. Okay, let's see this for a second. We say that this is the ID primary key not null. I'm guessing SQLite filled that up for me because I didn't provide it, but let's just confirm, right? So SQLite 3 editables, select star from editables. Yeah, I think it did select ID and species from editables. Let's limit 5. Yeah. It did indeed. It automatically filled that up. That's great. So now let's come and how do we read a record? For example, we are just going to call this function read record, and it's going to be a function of the record ID. And obviously we first need the connection, so the connection will be connect, and then okay, the connection will be connect, and we are saying on exit I want you to run this expression. The expression is connect that connection, and then here we have our query. Our query is I want you to select star. I want you to select everything from the table called editables, and then we are saying where ID is equals to something. So obviously the question mark is for parameterizing our DB query. Okay, so select star from editables where ID is equals to something. So we have our parameters. In this case, we are just going to have the ID as the parameter. And then let's execute this query. So we are going to do db get query. We have the connection statement. The statement will be the query, and then the parameters will be, well, params. I prefer having these on different lines, so I'll do that. Okay, so this read record function, this is going to be read a single record, and then at param id, this is going to be it's actually an integer. This is going to be an integer, and it's required, and then this is going to return a data frame, and finally we want this to be exported, right? So that is the read record function. Let's test it out. So I'm just going to say box, I'll purge cache, and then import everything from db, anything that's exported. Okay, so let's try, for example, read record, and the ID is 1. There we go. We can try ID 2, and let's try something crazy like 151. I know Iris has 150 records, so if we try something like 151, this should return an empty data frame, and indeed it does. Well, not an empty data frame, it returns a 0-row data frame. So this is working as expected. Okay, again, that is out of the way. Now let's define a function which just reads all the records. So we'll have read all records, and this will be a very simple function. So this is not going to have any parameters. Actually, we are just going to say this is supposed to return a data frame, and we want this to be exported. Okay, so read all records. This is a function, doesn't take anything, and all it does is db read table. We have the connection, and then we pass the name of the table. In our case, it's editables. Then the connection is going to be, I want you to connect, and we are saying on exit, I want you to run this expression, which is disconnect from that connection. Okay, let's test this out. So again, we are going to purge cache and then import everything from db, and we are saying read all records. Okay, could not find function db read table because I did not import it. So we import that function. Yeah, that looks about right. Again, purge cache, import everything, and read records. There we go. So read all records is also working. Now let's talk about editing a record. So I'll just say edit record. So edit record, it's going to be a function of, we have the ID, and then we will have the name of the column that you are trying to edit, and we'll have the value, right? Let me think. Yeah, this sounds, because I just want to edit cell by cell, I think this is fine. So one thing to note is, for the name, we need to enumerate those ones. So for the name can only be one of, actually I'll just copy the names from up here. So these are the names. So the name can only be one of these ones. So the name can only be either sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, or species. Yeah, that's it. So this edit a single record, and we are saying at param ID, this is an integer, and it's required, which is, I mean, the ID of that record. And at param name, this is a string, and it's optional. This is name of the column to edit. Finally, we have at param value, which is either string or numeric, and it's required, and that's, well, the value. So at the end of the day, I want to return a data.frame, which is basically the new record. Yes, and then I want this to be exported, right? Okay, so all we are going to do, well, at first we need to enumerate the name. So name will be match.arg, and the argument is the name. And then after that, yeah, we need the query. So the query will be, I want you to update editables. I want you to set, so we are setting a certain column. So for the column, since we've already enumerated name, we are just going to use sprintf for that. So let's just have %s, which is the column. So update editables, I want you to set the value of this column. Set %s, am I thinking about this right? Yeah, set %s equals to something, the value, right? And then we are saying where ID is equals to something. Okay, let's first of all replace that. So we'll do sprintf, that is the string, and then, so we are saying update editables. I want you to set now the column, which is the name in our case. So set this column to this value where ID is equals to something. So then this means our parameters, this is going to be a list. The first value is supposed to be the value itself, and then after that we need the ID. And it's in fact that simple. So we have the parameters, we have the query. What remains is executing the query. So db execute, we pass in the connection, but then we have the statement, which is the query, and then we have the parameters, right? And at the end of the day, I want you to read record where the ID is equals to the ID. Now let's pass in, we need that connection. So I'm going to say the connection will be connect. Then on exit, I want you to run this expression. I want you to disconnect that connection. Okay, this looks right. So we are saying edit record. First of all, we match the name to ensure it can only be those. And then we have our query here. So we update editables, set this column to this where ID is equals to this. Then we have our parameters, we execute that query, and at the end of the day, we read that record. This looks fine. Let's test it out. So I am going to use, okay, let me just start a new R session, and we are going to say, I want you to get me everything from DB, and we are saying, first of all, let's read record number one. So read record where the ID is 1. So this is it, right? So you have 5.1, 3.5, 1.4, 0.2, and the species is Setosa. So what I want to do is edit record. I want to say edit record where the ID is 1 and the name, the column I want to edit in this case, let's say it's the species, and the value for that species, I want to change it to Virginica. Okay, so that seems to have worked. It returned the new record, the new edited record. Okay, I guess we actually done for the database. That's all the functions we'll need for ourselves, because for this application, because we are mainly focusing on the editing bit. Okay, that looks fine. Okay, let's now move on to the UI, right? Let's start with a hello world program actually. So we are going to go to index.r. I am going to say, I want you to import from ambiorix. I want you to get me what? Get me ambiorix of capital A. And then let's create an app instance. So this is going to be ambiorix subset new, and we are saying app subset get at slash all get requests at slash will be handled by home get, and then we are starting our application on port 3000. Now let's define home get. We'll define home get in controllers.r. So here all we need is to say from controllers, I want you to get me home get. And yeah, this looks about right. Now let's go into controllers.r and define home get. So we are saying, I want you to go to controllers.r. This is a new file. Then obviously we'll use HTML tools. So from HTML tools, I want you to get me tags, then get me tag list, and in fact, get me HTML. Okay, so first of all, let's start with a general page structure. So page will be a function which takes the ellipses dot dot dot, and the ellipses, we are just going to pass them to the body of the HTML document, right? So let's come to Bootstrap. Let's go to get Bootstrap. Sorry. Let's go to get Bootstrap, and we're in fact going to the documentation. This is exactly what we want. So we paste it here, and then I'm going to like comment it out, then write the R code. So we need this to be a tag list, and at first we wrap it in HTML. We are wrapping the doc type, right? So we'll just copy this. Yeah, we'll just copy it there. And then let's now talk about the HTML tag. So tags subset HTML. Let's set the language to English, and then let's set a couple of meta tags. No, let's start with the head, and then inside of the head we'll have the meta tags. So tags subset head, and then inside of head, now let's have the meta tags. So meta, first of all, we start with the character encoding, which is UTF-8. And then let's go to this next one. We set the name to viewport, and the content will be width, device width, and then initial scale, we set it to 1. Then let's talk about the title, still in the head. So tags subset title, in our case we'll call it editable tables. Then after the title, let's talk about the link to our Bootstrap style sheet now. So this is going to be tags subset link, And what we'll do here, the href, in our case, we are going to access our bootstrap style sheet from slash static, and then we'll have bootstrap, this is 5.3.8, so bootstrap 5.3.8 slash bootstrap.min.css. I'm just like copying this file name here by this one. This is, you see, bootstrap 5.3, and then the file name is bootstrap.min.css. Then we are going to say the relationship. This is a style sheet. Okay. And after the head, let's go for the body. So tags subset body. And then we are going to pass the ellipsis there. And at the end of the day, we have the script. So tags subset script, and the src again will access ours from slash static bootstrap 5.3.8 slash, this is going to be bootstrap dot bundle dot min dot js. Okay, now it's time to get these bootstrap files. So first of all, let's create a directory called public, and now public is empty. Let's cd into public, then let's create a directory here called bootstrap 5.3.8. now that is where we are going to store the bootstrap files. Okay, so we'll just copy this cdn link. Let's copy this cdn link, visit it on our browser. This is the bootstrap main.css file. We are going to save it as, so inside of projects, we are talking about editables, in public, in here. This is where we want it. So that's the bootstrap main.css. And then for the JS one, we again copy it, visit that link on our browser, and we save this in the same location. So editables, public, bootstrap 5.3.8, click save, and you are done. Okay, now we can remove this boilerplate. So first of all, this is the, or rather I just have generic page UI, then at param dot dot dot, these are HTML tools, tags, and they are in fact optional. Of course, this is going to return HTML tools, tags, and I'd like it to be exported. Now that's the page, but then for the UI, the home page itself, we are going to just call that function UI. This is going to be a function, doesn't take any arguments. And the content for start, let's just have tags subset h3 hello world, and I want it to return page, then we pass in the content. So this is the home page UI, and we want it to be exported, and it's returning HTML tools, tags. Okay, that's it about that UI function. But now let's go to index.r and declare, we tell ambiorix where we are getting the static files. So we'll say app subset static, and we have the URI. We want the files to be accessible at slash static, so we have the URI as static, and then for the path, this is just going to be public, right? And now let's go to our controllers. So controllers, wait, I saved all this inside of controllers. This should have gone to the UI. So okay, I'm just going to cut all this. I'll put it in UI.r. Okay, doesn't hurt. Then we go back to our controllers. Inside of our controllers, we import the UI from UI.r. So from the UI, I want you to get with that UI function. And then that's about it. So in the controllers, we need to define home get. So home get, it's going to be a function of request and response. And this function is going to return, so we are just going to say res subset send the UI, and that's it. So this is handle get slash, then we are going to export it. Okay, and we go back to index.r, and this looks fine. Yeah, we have our app instance, we've attached, oh no, we've said this is where the static files are. Then we are saying for all get requests at slash should be handled by home get. Then we start up our application on port 3000. Okay, let's test this. So our script, okay, cd here, then our script index.r. Okay, it's running. Let's visit it, and here we go. So it's indeed working. So where to start? First of all, we need a card, right? So we will go to UI. Inside of this UI, the first thing I need, the content, let's have a div. Let's have it take a class container, right? So that, well, it's kind of centered. And then let's, inside of that container, let's have a card. So tags subset div class, we will give it card, then margin across the y-axis so that it's not too much into the like browser lining. Let's give it a margin across the y-axis of 5. Then this card, it's going to have a header, right? So we have another div class will be card header. Inside of the card header, we are going to have a title. So let's have another div, and let's okay, before we define the classes of that div, let's drop in the header. So this is going to be iris, and in fact, let's just have it on a new line. And the class here, this is the card title. Then after that, let's have a p tag whose class is the card subtitle. And for this one, we are just going to have, we are just going to say edit, and let's say changes are auto-saved, right? And then for this div, we want the card title to be on one side and the subtitle to be on the other side. So we are going to say class, we are setting it to display of flex, and justify content between, and then let's just say flex wrap, so that in case a screen is too small, the contents will just wrap. That's about it. Yeah, that's about it. So for now, let's preview what we have first. Okay, so I know we didn't complete the card because we only have okay. After the header, let's have tags subset div. Let's have the card body. So class here will be the card body, and inside of the card body, let's just have tags subset h3. The table will appear there. After the card body, let's just have tags subset another div. This will be the card footer. So card footer, and inside of the footer, let's just have a p tag. This is the okay. Let's see how this is looking. So we are going to stop. We are going to restart, and let's reload. Okay. So we are onto something here. Only that these ones aren't exactly aligned. So let's inspect this. So you see that the h3 has a margin bottom, then the p tag too. So what we will do is for both the h3 and the p tag, let's set the margin bottom to 0. So we will come here. So for the card title, let's say the margin bottom is going to be 0. Same for the subtitle. And then for the subtitle, let's make the text muted and small, right? So we'll say text muted and small. Okay, okay. Let's restart this. And time for a reload. Okay, so we've reloaded and this is looking good, only that the title is like it's kind of on the baseline, but the subtitle it's up there. So we need both of them to like be on the same level. So what we will do, we will come to the div containing them and we will add another class. We will align items baseline. Let's restart this and see if it works. And there you go. So now both the card title and the subtitle are well aligned. Okay, I think that looks good. Now let's talk about the table. For the table, we are obviously going to start with the table function. Like how do we create the table in R, right? So table, this is going to be a function of the data. And how does this data look? So create HTML table. The data at param data, this is going to be a named list. And it's required. So it's going to be a named list and each element of that list is going to be a column, right? Makes sense. So this is going to be, yeah, I want it to be exported, and obviously the return value is going to be HTML tools tags. So now let's copy the table boilerplate. So we are going to search table from Bootstrap. I want you to take me to the table, and this is what we want. So we paste it there, and then let's just do what? Let's just comment it out. So now time to convert this to R code. So first of all, you can see that we need a table, right? So tags subset table, we set the class to table. Nice. Now let's move on to the t head. So tags subset t head. And for the t head, that's it. It has no class currently. Inside of the t head, we need a table row right here on line 32. Well, relative line 32. So we need a table row. So tags subset tr, and inside of the tr, we need a couple of ths, right? So we are just going to, because when you look at this, these are the table headers. So these are like the column names of our data, the names of our data. So we are going to say, I want you to, I can just, yeah, let's just use lapply. I want you to lapply. The x will be tags subset th, and the function will be, this is a function of, actually we should be applying across the names of data, and we are saying this is a function of the name, and I want it to return tags subset th. We set the scope to be a column, and then we drop in the name. Okay, this looks good. Now let's go back here. After the t head, we have the t body. So actually let's delete the t head. We have the t body. This is after the t head. So we have tags subset the t body. Does it have any classes yet? No, it doesn't have any classes, and the t body is made up of a couple of table rows. So let's just retain that. Okay, so what we are going to do here is, first of all, since we said that the data object, this argument we are calling data, is it's a named list, and each element of that list is a column, right? Which means inside of the columns, those are the data that's supposed to go into the cells. But then the length of each column is the same as the number of rows of our table, right? So let's start with the rows. We are going to say, I want you to loop across the sequence. Let's say, yeah, the sequence along. We take our data, then we subset the first item. So when we subset that first item and then we get that sequence, we are getting the number of rows of our table. So the function here, it's going to be a function of the row index. And then now we are inside the rows. Now let's loop over the columns. So we are saying, I want you to apply. The x is going to be the sequence along. In this case, we're just going to say data because, well, that's the number of columns in our table, and the function will be, this is a function of the column index. And so what happens? So at the end of the day, of course, the value in the cell, it's going to be data subset the column index and then subset the row index. So that's the value in the data, and this value we want to wrap it inside of a tags subset td. Okay, so we are wrapping that value inside of tag subset td, and then all these tds will be wrapped inside of a tr. So we come here and say all of this will be wrapped inside of a tr. Okay, inside of a tr, and actually that's about it. Yeah, this looks right. So yeah, this is a couple of TRs, and inside of the TR we have TDs. TR, TD. Okay, for the first row, yeah, actually let's just do it. So for the first column, we need it to be a TH, and the scope is going to be row. So we will come here, and what we will do is, let's just have f, which will be if identical the column index and 1, then the function will be tags subset th, right? It will be tags subset th. Otherwise it's going to be tags subset td, and then the scope will be if identical the column index and 1, the scope will be row, otherwise it's going to be null. So the scope will be, yeah, it's going to be row, sure. And now instead of tag subset td here, we are just going to call f. Yep, that's about it for the table. So we can remove this and we can test our table function. So let's just have table, and I am going to say iris subset 1 to 6. In fact, why am I saying this when I can just read the data that we have? So this is just going to be data, and here the data will be read all records, and then let's import this read all records. So we are saying from db, I want you to get me read all records. Okay, that looks fine. Yeah, so now let's test this table and see if it's working. So stop and restart, then we come here, reload, and there we go. So it indeed rendered that table, but then you will notice that this is the table is a bit too long, so we need to make it a bit shorter. But before we do, let's do something here. First of all, let's start with, let's make this table hoverable. So we come to bootstrap, then we are looking for hoverable rows, and to do that we only need to add the class table hover. So we come to the table hover, then let's add borders to our table. So bordered tables, this is going to be the class table bordered. So table bordered, and then we need this table to be responsive so that like it responds to screen sizes. So we need to wrap our table in a table responsive div. So we take all this, then we wrap it in tags subset div class is going to be table responsive, and we drop it there, and that's about it. Let's stop and restart. Okay, so if we reload this, okay, so it's bordered now and it's hoverable. Now the other thing is, let's start with the low hanging fruits. Let's just, instead of having these, let's rename it. So we will come to our data and we are going to say the names of data. It's going to be the first one, let's just have hashtag, then we will have sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and of course we are going to have the species. Okay, load, and there we go. Okay, we are doing well, and the lights just went out at my place. Oh, they are back. Okay, so this looks fine. Now the next thing that I want is, this table is a bit too tall. Let's make it short. To do that, let's just inspect and see, maybe is it going to be on the table or on the table responsive? Let's try putting this on the table responsive. We are saying the maximum height. The maximum height, let's set it to 400 pixels. Okay, that's what we need indeed. So we are setting the maximum height on the table responsive. Okay, so we need that CSS file. So what we'll do is, we'll create that CSS file in public. Let's just call it main.css. Then let's open it. So public, let's go to main.css, and we are saying table responsive. We are setting the maximum height to 400 pixels. And then we have now to include this main.css in our UI. So we will go to the page function, copy this link, paste it here, and we are going to change. We want you to go to /static/main.css, and it's a style sheet. Okay, let's restart the application and see if that works. Okay, there we go. So it worked. Now we have that. Now the next thing, what do we need? All of these, like the cells, we need them to be inputs. So the cells, well, for the columns that we want to edit. So all of them need to be inputs. So what we are going to do is, we'll start with sepal. Let's start with the first one, which is sepal length. Let's start with sepal length. So I will come here, and what I am going to do is data subset sepal length. This is going to be, yeah, let's just, am I going to apply? What do I need? Because obviously I will need the row ID, and then we'll need the row ID and the value. Yeah, the row ID and the value. So apply wouldn't work well here. I probably need a map. So I'm going to say map function let's say create input. Yeah, let's just call that new function create input. And this create input, it's going to take two values, which is one, the row ID. So let's just say, yeah, the ID equals to ID, and the value, like the value of the input, so which is value. But what we are going to say here is, what are we mapping over exactly? Because data subset sepal length, that is a numeric vector. So okay, so at least I know that the value here is going to be data subset sepal length. That's the value. For the ID, this is going to be data subset ID. Okay. Now let's define create input here. So create input, it's going to be a function which takes in the ID and the value, and it returns an input. So we again go to Bootstrap, we go to the form overview. So for us, we just need an input, right? So an input, in our case, it's going to be type. I'm not sure if it's number. Numeric input HTML. Let's come here. Yeah, in fact, this is exactly what we need. So I'm just going to copy this. We do not need the label in our case. So I'll copy that, place it here. Okay, what have I done? Come back. Where are you? Right here. Okay, so we need a tags subset input. Then the type will be number. In our case, we do not need the ID. What we need is the name. And the name will be the same. Yeah. Let's pass in the name. So this function will indeed take the ID, the name, and the value. So that here now, the name in this case, it's going to be sepal length. Sepal length. That is the name that's going to be sent back to the backend when when like a value changes. So yeah, let's pass it. So the name will be the name, and value will be the value. And then what else do I need for this input? I need the step. The step, it's going to be any. So the step can take any value, right? Let's see. Yeah, we can also have a minimum. Let's have a minimum of 0. Minimum of 0. Okay, let's see the step. The step attribute is a number that specifies the granularity that the value must adhere to, or the special value any, which is described below. Where have you described it? A string value of any means that no stepping is implied and any value is allowed, barring other constraints such as minimum and the maximum. Okay. So what we need in our case is any, and then we go back to Bootstrap and we see that any input in Bootstrap has the class form control. So we come here and say class will be form control. Then now we don't need this. Okay, this looks about right. Time to put it into test. So we reload and there we go. Okay. So we can have, like, we can change this to 5.12, we can change this to 4.95, but this isn't persistent yet. But yeah, we have changed this to an input. Now we need to do the same thing for sepal width, petal length, and petal width. So we are going to, actually I'm just going to copy over this. So instead of sepal length, we'll have sepal width. The same function, the ID is the same here, sepal width. Sepal width. Okay, and we copy this over again for the petal length. petal length. Okay, we copy it over one last time for the petal width. Petal width. Okay, so that means now all our numeric columns should contain inputs. Let's reload this, and there we go. So all of them now contain inputs. Okay, so finally, let's focus on the species. So for the species, so data, subset species, this is going to be, we are just going to apply to species. For this one, do I need map? I don't think I need map. Okay, but I still need the data ID. Okay, let's just use map. So map, the function will be something, but then we are mapping over the ID will be data, subset ID, and then the name will, in this case, okay, you know what? Let's just have it this way. The name will be species though. What I need is the value, the ID and the value. So the value will be data subset species. And let's talk about this function. This is a function which takes the ID and the value and it returns a select input. So let's go to select, and this is exactly what we need. So let's just copy the boilerplate over and we are going to paste it here. Let's comment it out. And now, so what we need is a tags subset select. We set the class form select, and then area label. In our case, this is going to be the species. And then we have the options. So for the options, we can just apply over them. So apply x will be, the options can only be either setosa, versicolor, or vaginica, right? So the function here will be function which takes in the species, and what happens is I want you to return a tags subset option, and this selected tag will be if identical the species and the passed in value, then selected will be NA, otherwise it's going to be null. So we set the selected, and then we have the value will be the same as the species, and yeah, let's just have the species there. Okay, this looks about right to me. So we are applying over like the possible options, and then this is a function of species, and we're only setting like if it's selected, and then we have the value, and finally we are passing the species. Okay, this is okay. Time to remove this and time to test it. Reload, and there we go. So we can, change a bit, but as you said, this isn't persistent. Okay, this is good progress. Now let's talk about htmx. So we want, when we change a value, for example 6.1, we want that put request to be sent to the backend, and the response, in our case, it's just going to be like the last updated at field. So what we will do is, first let's include htmx in our project. So I'll go to htmx.org, and then let's go to docs. Let's come to installing, and this is the the CDN link, copy it, paste it on the browser. Now let's save the htmx. So we are going to save it under public. This is going to be htmx 2.0.8 .min.js. Okay, then we'll now go to the page and include it right after this. So tags subset script, and the src will be /static /htmx 2.0.8.min.js. And now htmx is with us. So now let's go back to the input. What do we want? Let's start with the numeric ones. So for the numeric ones, we've already set the name, which is the name of that column, so that when it's sent to the backend, we know, oh, this is the column we want to update, and then the value, so that is of course sent. Now what we need is the htmx attributes. So we are saying, I want you to make a put request. So we are setting hx put, and this put request, you are going to make it to /edit/ the row ID. So I want you to send this request to /edit/ ID. Okay, and then we will need what else? hx target. So once the response comes back, where are we going to put it? We are going to put it in edit status, for example. Let's just have like a div with an ID of edit status, and this div, we want to place this div in the footer on the right side. So let's first of all go to the footer and create a div with this ID. So we are just going to search footer, and in the footer we have tags subset div, and actually let's just have the ID as that, and by default let's make it a badge. So class, this is going to be a badge, and text bg secondary, then by default it's going to be no edits. So now we don't need this. Okay, this looks nice. So search for hx again. So now we are saying send this request to this, and this is the div that we are targeting. And then let's just have a loading indicator. So hx indicator, we are going to have this as htmx indicator. So this is the div with the class of htmx indicator, and that div is also going to be on the footer, but now on the left side. So let's see. So we come again to the footer, and before this one, let's just have tags subset what? I'm thinking I can just go with a span actually. Then for the spinner, I'll come and search for spinner, since you want this to be the one indicating that something is happening. Scroll a bit, go to the buttons, and what we want is simply something of this sort actually. So I'll copy that. Yeah. So we can actually just make this a div, and the class will be htmx indicator, and we'll paste this to there, and let's create this. So tags subset span, set the class to spinner border sm, and then set area hidden to true. So that's the spinner. Then we have the text. So tags subset span role is going to be status, and in my case I am going to have saving. This is the role. So role is going to be status, and in my case I'll have saving. And then I think this is just fine. For the color, let it be text primary. So let's go to the colors. Yeah, it's literally text primary. Okay, so let's come here, say text primary. Okay, so that's the spinner. And then let's style this htmx indicator. So we go back to our main.css. So public main.css, and right here we want to style the htmx indicator, but then I'll just go here and search hx indicator, and in this first link you actually have some little css here, which is all you need. So let's just copy this, come here, paste. And basically, by default, we are setting the htmx indicator div to have an opacity of 0 and like it's not visible, right? And then when the htmx request is in flight, that indicator has an added class of htmx request. So we are saying when the request is in flight, set the opacity to 1, make it visible, and add a small transition. Sorry. Okay, so go back to the UI, and what else do we need? So hx. So here we are saying I want you to send a put request to /edit/id, and then the hx target. This is the target div for the response, and the hx indicator will be the .htmx indicator. This is it. This is all we need for that. Yeah, let's go to the footer again, and let's just make it so that these two are set far apart. So we are going to say deflex, justify content between, align items, baseline. Yeah, this isn't even needed here. What we need is flex wrap. Okay, then actually let's just run the application and see where it is. Okay, so at least we get this, no edits, so we are doing well. Then let's check the browser for any errors. No, we don't have any. Hot reload, only one for favicon, and we are not using that. Okay, so this is okay. It imported htmx correctly. So now when the htmx request is sent, it's going to send a put request. Now let's add a handler for this request. So we go to controllers, and we are going to say I want you to handle put at /edit/id, and then we want this to be exported. This is edit record put. It's a function of request and response, and we here, first of all, it's a put request. By default, it's going to be form URL encoded. That's how like forms work. So htmx also does that by default. So pass form URL encoded, then we pass in the request, but we need to import this from ambiorix. So ambiorix subset this function. Okay, so for now, all I want to do is print that data, and as a response, the HTML that I want to, in fact, let me just return a string. So I would just want to send back request processed. Okay. Let's attach this. So we'll go to index.r, and I want you to be there, and then I'll say app subset put at /edit/id. I want you to be handled by edit record put. That's it. Now let's restart the application. Okay, reload. So if we increment this, oh, actually, we didn't set the trigger. Okay, so we go back to our htmx attributes. We are going to UI. We did not set the trigger. We want this request to be triggered when the input changes. So htmx trigger, this is going to be the input changed, and then since the user can be typing like 157, like the number 157, but then their typing speed is a bit low, so we need to add a delay. So I want you to delay by 500 milliseconds. And actually, let me just confirm this hx trigger thing, where you search for hx trigger, hx trigger attribute. No, I know it's somewhere. Like input changed. Yeah. Here we go. So we are delaying by 1 second here. Yeah, what if I want to delay? I'm guessing 500 milliseconds is fine. Can I just search for that? Let me just search for something like 500 ms. I'm sure there's something somewhere in the docs that I saw it. Okay, 500 ms. Aha, here we go. So here he was using key up changed delay 500 ms. Okay, I'm on the right track. So we are saying when the input changes, I want you to delay for 500 milliseconds and then send that request. This looks about right. So we come here, go back to the editables, reload. Now, if we increment this, you see we get request processed. So it indeed worked. Okay, so at least we are now sending the request to the backend. Now, let's change this request processed so that when returning, it will return a badge, and then it will include what? The time, right? So let's go to controllers and let's import from HTML tools, get me tags, get me tag list. And what we are saying is the HTML we are sending back in response, this is a tag list, and we are saying we need a span which has class badge. This is a badge text bg. Let's still go with secondary, and then we are just going to say edit saved, or rather I should have just gone with last updated at, right? Last updated. I'm thinking, so let's just go with last updated, and I'll like pass in a variable called now. So now will be, I want you to format the current system time, and the format will be %f %t, and I want you to use the time zone. So use time zone, we are setting this to true. Okay, so then I don't need all this since I want to send back a span. So here we are saying I want you to send back the HTML. Okay, let's do this again. And now if I try to increment this, now we get so last updated that, and we get that. Okay. Now the htmx indicator, is it showing? It's not showing, so that means maybe I messed up something. What I should do, let's add like a sys.sleep. So sys.sleep, I want you to sleep for like let's do 2 seconds and retry this again. Okay, so let's try sending the request. It's actually showing. Okay. We are doing well. So if I try to change this to 0.3, we are showing that we are saving, and then of course we are updating the last updated at. Okay. So on the console, you can see that we are logging the name, the column name, and its value. So what we are going to do is, first of all, I want you to get the ID. So in this case, okay, at the end of the day, I want to call the function edit record, which takes the ID. The ID will be data subset parameters subset ID. Since that's how you get the parameter, the request parameters, but we are going to cast it to be an integer. So that, and then the name will be the names of data subset 1. I mean, you don't have to subset 1, but just to be sure, since you see when it logged, we are logging the name and the value. Okay, then for the value, it's going to be data subset 1. Okay, this looks about right. Only that this data subset 1, I want to convert it to be a numeric if it's not the species column. So what I'll do here is I'll say if names of data subset 1, so we are just checking if not identical, the names of data subset 1, if it's not identical to species, then what I want you to do is data subset 1 will be as numeric data subset 1. So we are just converting it to be a numeric. Then this function for editing the record, let's import it from DB. So we edit that record, then we have a new time and this blah blah blah. This should in fact make the editing persistent. So let's restart the application, then try this. So let's switch this from 3 to a 5. We are saving, and okay, that did not work. So there is an error. So we have parameter 2 does not have length 1. Parameter 2 does not have length 1. This is probably an issue here. So I'll throw in a browser, and then I'm going to start this application interactively. Okay, let's see. So if I change this to be a 4, then I come here. I want you to show me what's in data. Okay, so it's already been converted to become a numeric, which is fine. Let's see. So, but what is data subset params? What? Why is... Oh God. I should have said it's supposed to be request subset param subset ID. Yeah. It's supposed to be request. Oh God, I'm still writing data. It's supposed to be request subset param subset ID. Okay. Let's try this again. Reload. Then let's try changing this from 3 to 5. It's saving, and here we go. So in fact, if we change this to something like 50, it means we are now persistent. So I've just reloaded, and you can see the 50 is still there. So this is this works for like all the numeric columns, right? So just works. So we need to do the same for the species column, and this is easy as just going to the UI and copying these htmx attributes to the select input. So we find where the select input is, and then we just paste them there. And that's just it. Yeah. So if we restart the application, so this should also work for this. Oh god, it did not work. Subscript out of bounds. Let's try this again. Do I have a name? Oh, I didn't set a name for this. The name for this select input, the name in this case should just be species. Okay, let's try this again. Let's try this again. So from setosa to versicolor. And there we go. Okay, so if we change this from like setosa to versicolor again, it's saving. And okay, so if we reload, the changes are still there. So in fact, our edits are now persistent. They are being saved to the database. So now we just have to do a few final UI tweaks. So first of all, when I scroll this table, I want this header to be fixed, right? To be sticky. So we are going to inspect, and then let's try setting on the T head. Can I just set something like sticky top? If I set that, what happens? Ah, nice. So on the T head, let's have sticky top. So we come here, find T head class. Let's have sticky top. Okay, and what else? So there is that. I think this is yeah. The 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 inputs. We don't need them to have these borders by default, because when they have the borders and then we have our bordered table, this is too much, right? So this means let's inspect this single input here, and when you scroll down, what did I do? Styles. So when you scroll down, you can see here that the border is being set to something, right? But we need the border to be 0. And when the border is 0, the table looks nice. So we should set this on form control. So we go to our CSS file. So I want you to go to public CSS file, and on form control, I want you to set the border to be 0. So we save that. Let's try restarting the application. Then I'm going to hot reload, and there we go. So this looks nice. Now let's do the same for the select input. So we are going to inspect that. Then on this select, you can see that, let's see, yeah, we still have this border thing. But if we set this to 0, this in fact looks much better to me. So we should set that in form select. Okay. So dot form select, we are setting the border to 0. Okay, so restart and hot reload, and there we go. So I think this is it. Did I miss anything? So I'll go to this previous implementation on port 5000. Aha, yeah, I can see I am missing this line here, this line. So this line, I think this is the border, right? So this has got to be something to do with the border. So I'll go to the table, and in the table group dividers, it's the group dividers. So this group divider thing, we are adding this to t-body. So we are adding the table group divider to the t-body. Okay, So we go to UI, then to the T body, we are adding this class. Okay, let's reload this. And there we go. So now you have this group divider, and I think, did I miss anything else? Let's check. I don't think I missed anything actually. This is complete. Okay, okay. So if I try to edit this to something like 55, it's saving, and there we go. If I, scroll down, change this to Virginica, it's saving, and this is updated. Okay, so this is, the complete implementation, and it's exactly what we set out to do. If you have watched this far, I hope you have learned something new, and thanks for watching. Have a great day ahead.